Hey guys, this is Mark with Exo Mountain Gear. I'm here in my home office slash gear room, and I was getting ready for a hunt, packing for a mountain goat hunt that I have in September, and looking at how I'm going to organize my rifle case, what other luggage I'm going to need to bring. And it made me realize that we actually get quite a few questions on traveling for hunts, and today in particular I want to talk about flying with firearms and some of the lessons that I have learned about doing that. So I've been flying for hunts with firearms for several years now. I've done it probably a dozen times at least, and I've learned a few things along the way that I wanted to talk about today. I also want to mention that I wrote an article on this very topic. It has more information, helpful links such as to the TSA regulations. It's going to have links to all the gear you're about to see shortly and much more. So if you're watching this video on YouTube and you're not already reading the article that's over on the Exo Mountain Gear website, look for the link below and go check out that article because it may answer some of the questions that I'm not going to cover in this video. So first things first, this is a Seahorse rifle case. I've also used a Pelican case. They're both great. Basically, you want to look for a hard-sided lockable container that meets TSA's regulations. I will say one thing to keep in mind is I advise not using a single rifle case or the very small cases that may just hold one scoped rifle, because it's just going to be very limiting. And one thing you'll see here shortly is that I pack a lot of other gear in my rifle case. Things that need to be checked because they're not allowed to be carried on, and also because any checked item on most major airlines is going to have a 50-pound allowance. And so I want to get as much in my case as I can and stay under that 50-pound limit. Wanted to touch briefly on locks really quick. The TSA regulations state that you do not need to use TSA locks. I use these keyed master locks. They're all keyed alike, so I just carry one key with me. Actually travel with a backup as well. But one important note on locks as well is that TSA is going to want you to have a lock for every latch location on your case. So this case has 4 latches, and on each latch there is a hole for a lock. So I need 4 locks. Some cases may have 6 locks. They may have a lock on either of the long end as well. If you have 6 latches on your case, make sure you bring 6 locks. One random note, you do not actually have to have this locked when you enter the airport. And the reason I bring that up is when you go to the airport, you go to the baggage counter, you simply want to declare that you are checking a firearm. And when you do that, most airlines are going to want you to sign a card stating that the firearm is unloaded and that you followed TSA regulations, and then you are going to put that card in the case. And so it's not a big deal. You can go into the airport with your case locked, but just be aware that you may have to actually unlock it, put that card in, and then relock it. I also have more information in the article about TSA and how they may inspect the case. So be sure to check that out. As I open this case, one thing you'll see is that I don't have custom foam for all of my gear. So some guys get really fancy. You can have the custom cut foams, you can have the pluck style foams. And when I first had a rifle case like this, I did that. I laid out my rifle and some of my accessories like my bipod, got it all perfect, made just the right outline to keep everything organized and secure, and it didn't take me long to realize that that was very limiting. So if you change anything in your rifle setup, you change anything about the accessories, you go on a particular hunt where you need to now pack more gear, you don't have the space for it. And so I really strongly feel, having done this quite a bit now, that the custom foams may be okay, but in the end they're just very limiting. So my opinion is save the extra time, save the extra money, and don't get a case with custom foam. All right, so as I mentioned, I pack other gear in the rifle case. Trekking poles are a perfect example. I bring them on every hunt. TSA does not want you to have them in your carry-on. I know some guys have done it and gotten away with it, but if you look closely at the regulations, they are not allowed. So I recommend checking those doesn't have to be in a weapons case, but it's a perfect place to take advantage of that 50-pound limit and get as much gear in your weapons case as you can. Another item I have in here is a tripod, both for shooting as well as glassing on this upcoming hunt. And to go with the tripod, I have my spotting scope. Perfect place to keep it protected is in there. A great example of what would have been limiting is maybe I had my rifle and custom foam and my tripod, my spotting scope, but for this mountain goat hunt, I'm bringing crampons, something different that certainly I wouldn't have had a place for with a custom foam setup, something unique to this hunt, and a perfect example of an item I can't carry on. They're sharp and they're metal, and because I have the flexibility within my case, I could put my crampons in the rifle case. Ammunition. Ammunition is regulated, of course, needs to be in a hard-sided container, cannot be loose packed, so don't just have a box with ammunition rolling around. You cannot store it in firearms magazines, even if that magazine is not inserted into the firearm. It can be in the factory boxes that the ammunition may have come in. So again, TSA regulations, some very specific rules there. I always recommend checking out those regulations. Look at the TSA website. Links are below for that. Don't just take my word for it. All right, when it comes to the rifle, this is my rifle case, soft-sided rifle case. I wish they still made it. It was by Slumberjack. And the reason I like this case is that it actually folds out into a shooting mat, but it's also very low profile. One thing to keep in mind, obviously I'm using a soft rifle case to help protect the rifle inside of the open hard case. But if you're traveling for hunts where you may be getting on a Super Cub or a float plane or some other non-commercial flight, often they are going to not want you or not allow you to take the hard case, and so you'll actually want very specifically a soft case to transport your rifle in. Again, that's helpful for flights like I've done into the Brooks Range for Alaska, but it's equally as helpful if I fly to another state and I'm hunting with a buddy and I can just throw my rifle in his pickup and not bring my hard case into the field with me. As you'll see, within the soft-sided rifle case, I'm gonna have a lot of other items that I've packed. Again, perfect example of the versatility that this strategy allows me. So within here, I have a couple of our stash pockets for our Exo Mountain Gear packs. One's a first aid kit, the other is a kill kit. Within that is my hunting knives. So again, a regulated item, not in my carry-on, perfect place to get it in my weapons case. What else? I have my bipod for my rifle. I have a magazine for a handgun, which you'll see just in a minute. Separately, I have the ammunition for that handgun. I have a suppressor, so I hunt with a suppressor on my rifle. Also, when you travel with a suppressor, the ATF wants you to travel with your paperwork. What I personally do is put that between the lid and the lid foam. So right behind there, I have my tax stamp or my approval to possess this suppressor. I have my range finder, a rifle cleaning kit. This item here is just a scoped action cover. So when I'm in the field, sometimes I will run this around my scope and my action to keep everything clean. I'm just using it as a small protector for a couple things. The magazine for my rifle, which was not inserted into my rifle. And then a handgun. So in instances where I am traveling with a handgun, it is perfectly acceptable to have one weapons case and multiple firearms within it. So again, handguns and rifles can be together in the same case. You just want to follow the protocols from TSA. Locked hard-sided container, unloaded, separate from ammunition, etc., etc. And then finally, I do have my rifle. So that is quite a bit of gear. I think this case, with everything loaded, was weighing at 46 pounds. So before an actual flight, I may actually put a few clothing layers or something like that in there to use as much weight and space as possible. But I just wanted to give you guys an idea of how I fly with firearms for my hunts and the advantages to not using custom foam. Again, I don't have anything against it. There's just a lot of versatility that you get when you use this type of packing strategy. I hope that was helpful. Again, the article is below if you're not already checking that out, or you can find it at exomountaingear.com.